We're just reading the Codex for this one, so if you're not interested in the Codex, then this one will not interest you. Just reading Codex. So, and these to new update. I should put my glasses on. Let's try this correctly, shall we? Huh. Not all we're done. Also trying to eat something that's way too hot. Okay. Alien council races. These are the three most politically important races in the galaxy. Asari. Because of their long lifespan, Asari tend to have a long view, not common in other races. When they encounter a new species or situation, the Asari are more comfortable with an extended period of passive observation and study than immediate action. They are unfazed by some of their investments or decisions. Some of their investments or decisions may not pay off for decades or centuries. Matriarchs can seem to make incomprehensible decisions, but their insight is evident when their carefully laid plans come to fruition. In interstellar relations, this long view manifests in an unspoken policy of centrism. The Asari instinctively seek to maintain a stable balance of economic, political, and military power. Traditionally, the Asari spread their influence through cultural domination and intellectual superiority. They invite new species of advanced development to join the galactic community, knowing that their ideals and beliefs will inevitably influence the existing culture. Asari religion. The pantheistic mainstream Asari religion is Siari, which translates roughly as all is one. The faithful agree on certain core truths. The universe is a consciousness. Every life within it is an aspect of a greater whole, and death is merging one's spiritual energy back to the greater universal consciousness. Ciarists don't believe specifically in reincarnation. They believe that the spiritual energy returned to the universal consciousness upon death will eventually be used to fill new mortal vessels. Ciari became popular after the Asari left their homeworld and discovered their ability to meld with nearly any form of life. This ability is seen as proof that all life is fundamentally similar. Ciari priestess see their role as promoting unity between disparate shards of the universe's awareness. Before the rise of Ciari pantheism, Asari religions were divided as their political opinions. The strongest survivor of those days is the monotheistic religion, worshipping the goddess Athene. Oh, like the knife. Like the Asari, the goddess cycles through the triple aspects of maiden, matron, and matriarch. Okay. Solarians, League of One. Before they joined the Citadel Council, the Solarians' most potent military tool was one of small reconnaissance team known as the League of One. Their primary training was in espionage and assassination. Never more than a dozen strong, the team was adept at infiltrating the tightest defenses and eliminating all necessary obstacles. Only a few top members of the government and military were privy to the League's identities. League members wore no distinguishing garments, held no particular rank. The only evidence of their participation in the League was a small medallion presented to each member upon induction. The secrecy was maintained until the formation of the Council. In an effort to dispel rumors and appease their new Asari partners, the Solarian Union released all classified documents pertaining to the League. The League of One was suddenly exposed and in danger of being hunted by enemies of the Solarians. Before any harm could be done, most of the team mysteriously disappeared. Most assumed this was a convenient lie to help hide their identities, but a few months later, the inner cabinet was murdered. Though there was no incriminating evidence, it was clear who was responsible. Realizing the threat, posed by this rogue outfit, Special Tasks Group dispatched a team of hunters. When they didn't return, the STG dispatched 10 of its brightest operators with broad discretionary powers. Only 2 returned. They reported no evidence of the League. No further incidents were reported, and it was assumed the League was wiped out. Some recently declassified documents, however, suggested there may have been a 13th member who eluded the Solarian military. Turian biology. In the Turian homeworld, Palavane has a metal poor core generating a weak magnetic field, allowing more solar radiation into the atmosphere. To deal with this, most forms of life on Palavane evolve some sort of metallic exoskeleton to protect themselves. Their reflective plate-like skin makes Turians less susceptible to long-term, low-level radiation exposure, but they do not possess any sort of natural armor. Turians' thick skin does not stop projectiles directed energy bolts. Although life on Palavane is carbon-based and oxygen-breathing, it is built on dextroamino acids. This places the Turians in a distinct minority on the galactic stage. Quarians are the only other known sapient dextroprotein race. The food of humans, Asaris, and Solarians, who evolved in a levo-amino acid-based biosphere, will at best pass through a Turian system without providing any nutrition. At worst, it will trigger an allergic reaction that can be fatal if not immediately treated. Oh dear. Good to know. Don't make bears food. Alright. While Turians are individuals with personal desires, their instinct is to equate the self with the group and set aside personal desires for the good of all. Turians are taught to have a strong sense of accountability, the Turian armor that other races find so remarkable. The Turians are taught to own every decision they make, good or ill. The worst thing they can make in the eyes of the people is to lie about their own actions. Turians who murder will try to get away with it, but if directly questioned, most will confess the crime. Turians have strong indication towards public service and self-sacrifice, so they tend to be poor entrepreneurs. To compensate, they accepted the mercantile Volus as a client race, offering protection in exchange for their fiscal expertise. Turian military is the center of its society. It is not just an armed force, it is an all-encompassing public works organization. The military police are also the civic force. The fire brigade serves the civilian population as well as military facilities. Corps of engineers build and maintain spaceports, schools, water purification plants, and power stations. The merchant marines ensures that all worlds get the resources. The Turian government is hierarchical meritocracy? I'm not familiar with that word. While it has great potential for misuse, this tempered by the civic duty and personal responsibility While it has potential for great misuse, this is tempered by the civic duty and personal responsibility Turians learn in childhood. Turians have 27 citizenship tiers. beginning with civilians, client races, and children. The initial period of military service is a second tier. Formal citizenship is conferred at the third tier after boot camp. For client races, citizenship is granted after the individual musters out. I guess that gets through boot camp. Higher rank citizens are expected to lead and protect the subordinates. Lower rank citizens are expected to obey and support superiors. Promotion to another tier of citizenship is based upon the personal assessment of one's superiors and co-rankers. What? Throughout their lives, Turian ascend to higher tiers and are occasionally demoted to lower ones. The stigma associated with demotion lies not on the individual, but on those who promoted him when he wasn't ready for the additional responsibility. This curbs the tendency to promote individuals into positions beyond their capabilities. Settling into a role and rank is not considered stagnation. Turians value knowing one's own limitations more than being ambitious. At the top are primarchs, who each rule a colonization cluster. The primarchs vote on matters of national import. They otherwise maintain a hands-off policy, trusting the citizens on each level below them to do their jobs competently. Turians enjoy broad freedom. So long as one completes his duties, it does not prevent others from completing theirs. Nothing is forbidden. So, for example, there is no laws against recreational drug use, but if someone is unable to complete his duties due to drug use, his superiors step in. Judicial proceedings are interventions. Peers express their concern, try to convince the offender to change. If rehabilitation fails, Turians have no qualms about sentencing dangerous individuals to a life at hard labor for the state. Military doctrine. Although they lack the brutality of the Krogan, the skill of the Asari, and the virtuosity of humans, the Turian military has formidable discipline. Officers and NCOs are lifers with years of field experience. Listed personnel are thoroughly trained and stay calm under fire. Turian units don't break. Even if their entire line collapses, they fall back in order, setting ambushes as they go. A popular saying holds, you will only see a Turian's back once he's dead. Boot camp begins on the 15th birthday. Soldiers receive a year of training before being assigned a field unit. Officers train for even longer. Most serve until the age of 30, at which point they become part of the reserves. Even if they suffer injuries preventing frontline service, most do support work from behind the lines. Biotics are uncommon. While admired for their exacting skill, biotics motives are not always fully trusted by the common soldier. Turians prefer to assign their biotics to specialist teams called cabals. Command and control is decentralized and flexible. Individual squads can call for artillery and air support. They make extensive use of combat drones for light duties and practice combined arms. Infantry operates with armor, supported overhead by gunships. Strategically, they are methodical and patient and dislike risky observations. Tradition is important. Each legion has a full-time staff of historians who chronicle its battle honors in detail. The oldest records dating back to the Turian Iron Age. Wow. If a legion is destroyed in battle, it is reconstituted rather than replaced. The Turians recruit auxiliary units from conquered or absorbed minor races. Auxiliaries are generally split light infantry or armored cavalry units at screen and support main Turian formations. At the conclusion of their serviceship in the auxiliaries, recruits are granted Turian citizenship. Oh, was that everything? Okay. About the time the Solarians and the Asari were forming the council, the Turians were embroiled in a bitter civil war. The Unification War, as it was later named, began with hostilities between the colonies furthest from the Turian homeworld, Palapaline. These colonies were run by local chieftains, many of whom had distanced themselves from the hierarchy. Without the galvanizing influence of the government, the colonies became increasingly isolated and xenophobic. Colonists began wearing emblems or facial markings to differentiate themselves from members of other colonies, and open hostilities became common. When war finally broke out, the hierarchy maintained strict diplomacy and refused to get involved. After several years of fighting, less than a dozen factions remained, and the hierarchy finally intervened. By that time, the chieftains were too weak to resist. They were forced to put an end to the fighting and renew their allegiance to the hierarchy. Though peace was restored, it took several decades for animosity between the colonists to fade away completely. To this day, most Turians still wear facial markings of their home colonies. As a point of interest, the Turian term "bareface" refers to one who is beguiling or not to be trusted. Is also a slang term for politicians. Okay. Extinct alien races. Hang on, I want a bite. Okay. The beacon was a Prothean artifact unearthed on the Alliance colony of Eden Prime. Its resemblance to the Prothean databanks recovered on Mars provoked immediate interest from the Alliance and the Citadel Council. It proved to be a solid-state data storage device, part of a galaxy-spanning comm network similar to the modern extranet. Intact Prothean paleo technology is rare. The beacon seemed to promise another quantum leap of technology, akin to the discovery of the Mass Effect drive and relays. Unfortunately, the beacon also drew the attention of the rogue Spectre Saren Artaeus and his synthetic allies, the Geth. A dawn raid by his flagship, Sovereign, resulted in hundreds of civilian casualties. The beacon was badly damaged. The motives behind the attack are still being investigated. Hi, Wolf. What's the matter? During the recovery operation, a beacon fired a pulse of energy into the executive officer of the Alliance frigate Normandy. Lieutenant Commander Shepard survived and appears to have suffered no ill effects. Afterwards, the beacon fell inert. The mechanism appears to be dead. The Prothean beacon downloaded its knowledge into Lieutenant Commander Shepard on Eden Prime, causing confusing dreams and visions. While imagery is becoming clearer with time, the meaning of the beacon communication remains elusive. It has been suggested the Prothean data recording is highly dependent on a certain point of view, what Carl Jung described as collective unconsciousness. The cipher needed to comprehend the images implanted in Shepard's mind is the cultural knowledge of a Prothean, the archetypes, biological instincts, and common experiences universal to the race. Since Protheans have been dead for millennia, it may be impossible to acquire this cipher. Prothean data disks. Despite all the evidence confirming the existence of Protheans, little is known about their culture and society. From time to time, dig sites will yield no clues, but after 50,000 years of decay, little of value is unearthed. Recent research has focused on the discovery of Prothean data disks. On their own, they are frail and rarely found in one piece. Occasionally, however, an intact disk will be discovered within a console or reading device. To date, over 3 dozen disks have been recovered, and a few of those have been restored to the point where researchers can begin analyzing them. Though it may be some time before scientists discover a way to transfer the data off the disk, they are currently considered the most tangible leads for learning more about Prothean culture. Non-council races. Alright, Geth. Hello, the Geth. Yeah. Armatures. Armatures are quadrupeded all-terrain, heavy weapon platforms akin to an armored fighting vehicles of other races. Geth being synthetic intelligence, armatures are not crewed by vehicles, but intelligent entities capable of making independent decision-making and learning. Armatures are equipped with heavy kinetic barriers. Their main cannon, mounted on the articulated head turret, appears to be a highly efficient conventional mass accelerator. It is capable of firing anti-personnel and anti-tech modes. Some armatures carry drones into battle, presumably for reconnaissance purposes. Others host a swarm of insect-sized repair microbots. Microbots? The Geth modules, collectively dubbed Hoppers by the Alliance Force, are electronic warfare platforms. They can project electromagnetic radiations across a broad spectrum as an offensive weapon. They can also perform cyber warfare attacks against onboard computers of body armor, hand suits, and weapons, adversely affecting their performance. The structure of hoppers consists of an advanced and highly elastic artificial muscle material. This allows the hopper to compress its entire body for powerful leaps. Hoppers have thousands of molecular scale barbs on the surface of their hands and feet, which are used to cling to the walls and ceilings. Hoppers are very difficult targets, leaping from one surface to another in rapid succession. Aquarians have no records of any Geth model similar to hoppers. This new morphotype must have been developed over the last 300 years by the Geth themselves. This is troubling proof that the Geth are continuing to move towards technological singularity. Experts in synthetic life are intrigued that the hoppers appear to be even more organic than the baseline Geth. Identified subtypes of hopper have been codenamed Sapper, Soccer, and Ghost. The harsh Krogan homeworld conditioned the Krogan psychology for toughness just as it did the body. The Krogan have always had a tendency to be selfish, unsympathetic, and blunt. They respect strength and self-reliance and are neither surprised nor offended by treachery. The weak and selfless do not live long. In their culture, looking out for number one is simply a matter of course. After their defeat in the rebellions, the very concept of Krogan leadership was discredited. Where a warlord could once command enough power to bring entire solar systems to heel and become an overlord, these days it is rare for a single leader to have more than 1,000 warriors to swear allegiance to him. Most Krogan trust and serve no one but themselves. This solitary attitude stems in part from a deep sense of fatalism and futility, a profound social effect of the genophage that caused the Krogan numbers to dwindle to a relative handful. Not only are they angry, but the entire galaxy seems out to get them. The Krogan are also generally pessimistic about their race's chances of survival. The surviving Krogan will see no point to building towards a future. There will be no future. The Krogan live with the attitude of kill, pillage, and be selfish, for tomorrow we all die. We did that to them. It's horrible. The genophage bioweapon was created to end the Krogan rebellions. From the start, the Krogan had overwhelmed the Council. Only timely first contact with the Turians saved the Council races. The Turians fought the Krogan to a standstill, but the sheer weight of the Krogan numbers indicated a war. The war could not be won through conventional means. The Turians collaborated with the Solarians to genetically engineer a counter to the rapid breeding of the Krogans. The genophage virus gained the energy to replicate by eating key genetic sequences. Every cell in every Krogan had to be altered for the weapon to be foolproof. Otherwise, Krogan could have used gene therapy to fix the affected tissues. Once a genophage strain could find no more genes to eat, it would starve and die, limiting the spin-off mutation and contamination. This created genetic flaw as hereditary. Solarians believe the genophage would have been used as a deterrent, a position the Turians viewed as naive. Once the project was complete, the Turians mass-produced and deployed it. The Krogan homeworld, their colonies, and all occupied worlds were affected. The resulting mutation only made 1 in 1,000 Krogan pregnancies carry to term. It did not reduce fertility, but offspring viability. The rare female able to carry children to term became prizes the Krogan warlords fought brutal battles over. The Krogan were a shadow of their former glory. While the rebellions took place centuries ago, they are constantly reminded of the horror of the genophage and their inability to counter it. The release of the genophage is still controversial, bitterly debated in many circles. After the Rachni War, the quick-breeding Krogan expanded at the expense of their neighbors. Warlords leveraged their veteran soldiers to seize living spaces, while the council races were still grateful. Over the centuries, the Krogan conquered world after world. There was always just one more needed. When the council finally demanded the withdrawal from the Asari colony of Luzia, Krogan overlord Critic stormed off the citadel, daring the council to take their words back. But the council had taken precautions. Finest STG operators in the Asari Hunters had been drafted into Covert Observation Force, the Office of Special Tactics and Reconnaissance. The Spectres opened the war with crippling strategic strikes. Krogan planets went dark as computer viruses flooded the extranet. Sabotaged antimatter refineries disappeared in blue-white annihilation. Headquarters and stations shattered into orbit-clouding debris rammed by pre-placed suicide freighters. This seems familiar. Oh, okay, so some of these we've read, looks like. Yeah, okay. Oh, here. Let's see. Was this one new? Traditional Krogan tactics were built on attritional mass unit warfare. Equipped with cheap, rugged gear, troop formations were powerful but inflexible. Command and control was very centralized. Soldiers in the field who saw a target contacted their commanders behind lines to arrange fire support. Since the genophage, the Krogan can no longer carry out. The Krogan can no longer forward the casualties of the old horde attacks. Battle masters are a match for any 10 soldiers of another species. To a battle master, killing is science. They focused on developing a clean, brute force economy of motion that exploits their brutal strength to incapacitate enemies with a swift single blow of overwhelming power. This change of focus from mass unit warfare to maximal efficiency has increased the employment demand in the field of security and muscle for hire due to the unsavory reputation of the Krogan. Most of these jobs are on the far side of the law. Battle masters are not spit and polished, but they do believe in being well armed and well equipped, preferably with a gun for each limb. They are callous and brutal, but methodical and disciplined. They use any means at their disposal to achieve their goals, no matter how reprehensible. Hostage-taking and genocide are a few acceptable means to ensure the quiet cooperation of a few Krogan casualties. The Krogan serving with Saren's forces appear to be returning to the old style of mass attritional combat. They also work in close cooperation with supported Geth units who fill the role occupied by combat drones and other armies. Biotics are rare among the Krogan. Those that exist are viewed with suspicion and fear. The Krogan see this aura of fear as a useful quality for an officer and often promote them. Combat drones and other high-tech equipment are likewise in short supply. Nope. Alright, 2 more in this section. There we go. Although the Conclave establishes civil law much as any planet-based democracy, enforcement and trials are more unique. After the flight from the Geth, there were few constables to police the millions of civilians above the fleet, so the Navy parceled out Marine squads to maintain order and enforce the law. Today, Quarian Marines have evolved training and tactics akin to civilian police, but remain adept at combat in the confined spaces of a starship and fully under the command of the military. Once taken into custody, the accused is brought before the ship's captain for judgment. While the ship's council may make recommendations, tradition holds that the captain has absolute authority in matters of discipline. Most are lenient, assigning additional or more odious maintenance tasks aboard the ship. Persistent are accidentally left on the next habitable world. This practice of abandoning criminals on other people's planet is a point of friction between the Quarians and systems they pass through. Captains rarely have another choice. With space and resources at a premium, supporting a non-productive prison population is not an option. In early years, many Quarian freighters were armed and used as irregular privateers. Civilian ships still show a strong preference for armament, making them unpopular targets for pirates. Though they have rebuilt their military, there are still mere hundreds of warships to protect tens of thousands of ships. The Quarian Navy follows strict routines of patrol and takes no chances. If the intention of an approaching ship can't be ascertained, they shoot to kill. The ancient Quarians practiced ancestor worship. Even after abandoning faith for secularism, Quarians continued to revere the wisdom of elders. As time passed and technology advanced, they inevitably turned their knowledge to preserving the personalities and memories of the elderly as computer viral and virtual intelligence. These recordings became a repository of knowledge and wisdom stored in a central databank and available through any extranet connection. I have no illusions that this was a form of immortality. Like all virtual intelligences, their electronically preserved ancestors were not truly sapient. This was considered a surmountable problem. The sapiens could surely be reduced to simple mathematics. The Quarians began an exhaustive research into creating artificial intelligence so they could learn to escape the bounds of mortality and give their ancestral records true awareness. Unfortunately, the life the Quarians created did not accept the same truth stated. The Geth destroyed the ancestor database when they took over. Interesting. In the centuries since they evacuated their homeworld, most Quarians have returned to religion in various forms. Many believe that the rise of the Geth and the destruction of their ancestors were chastisement for arrogantly forsaking the old ways and venerating self-made idols. Others have more of a philosophical outlook, believing that their race was indeed arrogant, but no supernatural agency lay behind the Geth revolt. Rather, the Quarians' actions wrought their own doom. Either way, every Quarian would agree that their own hubris cost them their homeworld. Nothing new in here. Something new here. Let's see. This one we've done, right? Yeah. Alright. I'm gonna have a bite before I start talking again. As the human race expands its territory and raises the general standard of living, demand for industrial resources continues to grow. Many planets, moons, and asteroids contain a wealth of resources, but many systems have barely been charted, let alone thoroughly surveyed. Unmanned probes are one solution, but they often are lost to space hazards, unforeseen circumstances, or theft by salvagers. In recent years, AGES Yeah. Aegis. Alliance Geological Service has offered bounties to private individuals or teams willing to perform mineralogical surveys on the frontier. The survey data is made publicly available to further corporate development. Due to the cost of travel and the dangers of operating on hostile worlds, it's rarely a profitable endeavor. Light metals. Metals used with low atomic weight are often used in the construction of spacecraft and vehicles. Heavy metals. Metals with higher atomic weights are used in the construction of equipment components. The platinum group of elements are particularly useful. Rare earths. The most useful materials in this category are radioactives or magnets. Gases. Various gases are required to support all forms of safety and life. Some are commonly used as fuel. The Alliance's military is of great concern to the galaxy. At first contact with the Turians, they were completely inexperienced. The Turian disdain changed to respect after the relief of Shanxi, where the humans surprised them with novel technologies and tactics. The human devotion to understanding and adapting to modern space warfare stunned the cited continental races. For hundreds of years, they had lived behind secure walls of long-proven technologies and tactics. The Council regards the Alliance as a sleeping giant. Less than 3% of humans volunteer to serve in their military, a lower proportion than any other species. While competent, Alliance soldiers are neither as professional as the Turians nor as skilled as the Asari. Their strengths lie in fire support, flexibility, and speed. They make up for lack of numbers with sophisticated technical support, BIs, drones, artillery, electronic warfare, an emphasis on mobility and individual initiative. Their doctrine is not based on absorbing and dishing out heavy shocks like the Turians and the Krogans. Rather, they bypass their enemy's strong points and launch deep into their rear, cutting supply lines and destroying headquarters and support units, leaving enemies to wither on the vine. On defense, human military is a rapid reaction force that lives by Sun Tzu's maximum: he who tries to defend everything defends nothing. Garrisons are intended for scouting rather for combat, avoiding engagement to observe and report on invaders using the drones. The token garrisons of the human colonies make it easy for alien powers to secure them, for which the Alliance media criticizes the military. However, the powerful fleets stationed at phase gate nexuses such as Artros are just a few hours or days from any colony within their sphere of responsibility. In the event of an attack, they respond with overwhelming force. Okay. So, planets and locations. Archer Station is the gateway to Sol. Oh, we definitely read that one. Yeah. Okay. Gagarin Station. Gagarin Station is the largest deep space station built by humanity. A Bernardal sphere with design with 500-meter habitation area. It was constructed beyond Pluto, nearly 80 astronomical units, 2 billion kilometers from Sol. Moving crew and material to this location bankrupted most of the backers. Gagarin was placed at the inner edge of the heliopause, the point at which the solar wind can no longer push back interstellar medium. It was built to test the number of faster-than-light drive principles that theoretically could only occur in interstellar space. The station was nicknamed Jump Zero, as it was intended to be a jumping-off point for humanity's expansion to the galaxy. Shortly after the station was completed, protein ruins were discovered on Mars, rendering the entire effort moot. After struggling to make a profit for a decade, Gagarin was sold to the Systems Alliance in 2159 for a fraction of its construction costs. The Alliance refurbished it as a research and training facility for recently discovered biotic phenomenon. I was going to say, Caden said that he stayed here for a while they were doing stuff with him. In 2169, the Biotic Acclimation and Training Program was shut down, and Garen became a general research facility. Its remote location and intentional isolation from the extranet makes it popular for dangerous research, particularly in the field of artificial intelligence. Humanity's first ever stable AI, the Alliance-sponsored ELIZA, achieved sapience at Garangan in 2172. Today, Garangan has a permanent population of approximately 9,000. It's probably over 9,000 now. A plan has been produced to move it to the gravitationally stable barycenter point between Pluto and Charlin Relay, allowing it to serve as a gateway facility between Sol and Arcturus systems. The high cost of safely moving its mass has delayed this indefinitely. Alright, definitely read this one. FTL drive. As positive or negative electric current is passed through an FTL drive form, it acquires a statistical electrical charge. Drives can be operated an average of 50 hours before they reach charge saturation. This change is proportional to the magnitude of mass reduction. A heavier, faster ship reaches saturation more quickly. If the charge is allowed to build, the core will discharge into the hull of the ship. All undergrounded crew are fried to a crisp, and electronic systems are burned out, and metal bulkheads might be melted and fused together. The safest way to discharge a core is to land on a planet and establish connecting with the ground like a lightning rod. Larger vessels like dreadnoughts cannot land and must discharge into a planetary magnetic field. The ship passes the charge from the drive core to the external armored hull and then drives into the magnetic field. As the hull discharges, the sheets of lightning jump away into the field, creating beautiful aurora displays on the planet. The ship must retract its sensors and weapons while dumping the charged damage, leaving it blind and helpless. Discharging at a moon with a weak magnetic field can take days. Discharging at a powerful field with gas change may require less than an hour. Deep space facilities such as the Citadel often have special discharge facilities for visiting ships. Heat limits the... this is combat endurance. Heat limits the length and intensity of ship-to-ship combat. Starships generate enormous heat when they fire high-energy weapons, perform maneuvering burns, and run on-board combat electronics. In combat, warships produce heat more quickly than they can disperse it. As heat builds within a vessel, the crew spaces become increasingly uncomfortable. Before the heat reaches lethal levels, a ship must win or retreat by entering FTL. After an FTL run, the ship shuts down on a central system and activates the heat radiation gear. Combat endurance varies by ship design and by the battle's location. Battles in deep cold of interstellar space can go on for some time. Engagements close to a star are brief. Since habitable worlds are usually close to a star, battles over them are frantic. Let's see. That we've done. Heat management again. Dispersal of heat generated by onboard systems is a critical issue for ships. It cannot deal with the heat, and the crew may be cooked within the hull. Radiation is the only way to shed heat in a vacuum. Civilian vessels utilize large fractal radiator panels that are impossible to armor. Warship used diffused radiator arrays, DRA, ceramic strips along the exterior, armored hull. These make the ship appear striped to the thermographic sensors. Since the arrangement of the stripes depend on the internal configuration of the ship, the patterns for each vessel are unique and striking. On older ships, the DRA strips could become red or white hot. Oh. Where'd it go? There it is. Dubbed tiger stripes or war paint by humans, the glowing DRA had a psychological impact on pirates and irregular forces. Ship radiators are not as efficient as panels, But if damaged by enemy fire, a ship only loses a small portion of its total radiation capacity. In most cases, a vessel's DRA alone allows it to cruise with no difficulties. Operations deep within our system can cause problems. A ship engaged in combat can produce titanic amounts of heat from maneuvering burns and weapons fire. When fighting in a high heat environment, warships employ high-efficiency droplet heat sinks. In a droplet system, tanks of liquid sodium or lithium absorb the heat within the ship. The liquid is vented from the spray nozzles from the near the bow as a thin sheet of millions of micrometer scale droplets. The droplets are caught at the stern and recycled back into the system. A droplet system can sink 10 to 100 times as much heat as the DRA shares. Droplet sheets resemble a surface's wake through water. The wake peels out in sharp turns, spreading a fan of droplets as the ship changes vectors and leaves behind. Let's see. This one we've done. Guardian. A ship's general area defense integration anti-spacecraft network. Guardian. It's really hard for that one. Consists of anti-missile, anti-fighter laser turrets on the exterior hull. Because these are under computer control, the gunnery control officer needs to do little beyond turn the system on and designate the targets as hostile. Since lasers move at light speed, they cannot be dodged by anything moving at non-relativistic speeds. Unless the beam is aimed poorly, it will always hit the target. In early stages of battle, the Guardian fire is 100% accurate. It is not 100% lethal, but it doesn't have to be. Damaged fighters must break off for repairs. Lasers are limited by diffraction. The beam spreads out, decreasing the energy density, watts per M2. You don't know what that is. The weapon can place on a target. Any high-powered laser is short-range weapon. Guardian networks have another limitation: heat. Weapons-grade lasers require a cool-down time during which the heat is transferred into sinks or radiators. As lasers fire, heat builds within them, reducing damage, range, and accuracy. Is that why my gun keeps jamming? Fighters attack in swarms. The first few will be hit by a Guardian, but as the battles continue, the effects of lasers overheat allow attackers to press ever closer to the ship. Constant use will burn out the laser. Guardian lasers typically operate in infrared frequencies. Shorter in frequencies would offer superior swapping power and range, but degradation of the focal arrays and mirrors would make them expensive to maintain. It must prefer mechanical reliability over bleeding-edge performance where lives are concerned. Solarians, however, use near ultraviolet frequency lasers with 6 times the range, believing that having additional time to shoot down incoming missiles is more important. Fair. Lasers are not blocked by the kinetic barrier of the capital ships. However, the range of lasers limits their use to rare knife fight, range, ship-to-ship combat. Alright. Technology. Biotics. Life is a biotic. Biotics possess extraordinary abilities, but they must live with minor inconveniences. The most obvious issue is getting adequate nutrition. Hitting biotic mass effects takes such a toll on their metabolism that active biotics develop ravenous appetites. A standard allowance combat ration is for a soldier is 300 calories per day. Biotics are given 4,500, as well as a canteen of potent injury drink for quick refreshment after hard combat. Another issue is electric charge. Electricity accumulated in the starship drive cores must be discharged, and so must electricity in a biotic user. Biotics are prone to small static discharges when they touch metal. Unfortunately, human biotics also face suspicion and prosecution, beginning with the popular misconception that they can read and control minds. Biotics symbolize the dehumanization of mankind to people philosophically or religiously opposed to gene modification and cybernetics. Militaries are our only organization that always welcome biotics. offering them huge recruitment incentives. Oh, there's one more. At least one more. Alright. Biotic implants and not amplifiers only provide the potential to create coherent mass effect fields. Whether biotics can actually do so is largely determined by their training. Biotics must develop conscious control over their nervous system, sending specific electrical impulses to the elementary nodules embedded in their nerves. They are taught to use their implants and imps with the biofeedback devices and physical mnemonics. Specific gestures and muscle movement fire the proper sequence of nerves to activate a certain skill. Whoop. Codex Industries pioneered biotic training with the Biotic Acclimation and Temperance Training Program. Bat? Yep. Although BAT did not achieve the desired results, many techniques are taught or still used today. Many human think tanks are trying to develop some form of biotic super soldier. Most are benign efforts to create a more flexible troops. Others, less publicly known, are unapologetic attempt to create a Nietzschean Superman. Nothing new in weapons and armor. That's all the secondary stuff. Alright, I'm gonna have my snack a little bit.
The Asari were the first species to discover the Citadel. When the Solarians arrived, it was the Asari who proposed the establishment of the Citadel Council to maintain peace throughout the galaxy. Since then, the Asari have served as the mediators and centrists of the Council. An all-female race, the Asari reproduce through a form of parthenogenesis. They can attune their nervous system to that of another individual of any gender and of any species to reproduce. This capability has led to the unseemly and inaccurate rumors about Asari promiscuity. Asari can live for over 1,000 years, passing through 3 stages of life. In the maiden stage, they wander restlessly, seeking new knowledge and experience. When the matron stage begins, they meld with interesting partners to produce their offspring. This ends when they reach the matriarch stage, where they assume the roles of leaders and counselors. The second species to join the Citadel, the Solarians, are warm-blooded amphibians with a hyperactive metabolism. Solarians think fast, talk fast, and move fast. To Solarians, other species seem sluggish and dull-witted. Unfortunately, their metabolic speed leaves them with a relatively short lifespan. Solarians over the age of 40 are a rarity. The Solarians were responsible for advancing the development of the primitive Krogan species to use as soldiers during the Rachni Wars. They were also behind the creation of the genophage bioweapon the Turians used to quell the Krogan rebellions several centuries later. Solarians are known for their observational capability and non-linear thinking. This manifests as an aptitude for research and espionage. They are constantly experimenting and inventing, and it is generally accepted that they always know more than they are letting on.
They're behind the creation of the development of the Krokans in the species. Interesting, but also, this is nice. I was running out of breath.
Roughly 1,200 years ago, the Turians were invited to join the Citadel Council to fulfill the role of galactic peacekeepers. The Turians have the largest fleet in Citadel space, and they make up the single largest portion of the Council's military forces. As their territory and influence has spread, the Turians have come to rely on the Solarians for military intelligence and the Asari for diplomacy. Despite a somewhat colonial attitude towards the rest of the galaxy, the ruling hierarchy understands they would lose more than they would gain if the other 2 races were ever removed. Turians come from an autocratic society that values discipline and possesses a strong sense of personal and collective honor. There is lingering animosity between Turians and humans over the First Contact War of 2157, which is known as the Relay 314 incident to the Turians. Officially, however, the 2 species are allies, and they enjoy civil, if cool, diplomatic relations.
You didn't use the word autocratic in the other one. I can say autocratic.
50,000 years ago, the Protheans were the only spacefaring species in the galaxy. They vanished in a swift galactic extinction. Only the legacy of their empire remains. They are believed to have built the mass relays and the Citadel, which have allowed numerous species to explore and expand throughout the galaxy. Prothean ruins are found on worlds across the galaxy. While surprisingly intact for their age, functioning examples of Prothean paleotechnology are rare. Time and generations of looters have picked their dead cities and derelict stations clean. Some believe the Protheans meddled in the evolution of younger races. The Hanar homeworld of Kajay, for example, shows clear evidence of former Prothean occupation. The presence of a former Prothean observation post on Mars has caused a rebirth of interventionary evolutionists among humans. These individuals believe the god myths of ancient civilizations are misremembered encounters with aliens. Though now extinct, the Rachni once threatened every species in Citadel space. Over 2,000 years ago, explorers foolishly opened a mass relay to a previously unknown system and encountered something never seen before or since, a species of spacefaring insects guided by a hive mind intelligence. Unfortunately, the Rachni were not peaceful, and the galaxy was plunged into a series of conflicts known as the Rachni Wars. Attempts to negotiate were futile, as it was impossible to make contact with the hive queens that guided the race from beneath the surface of their toxic home world. The emergence of the Krogan ended the Rachni Wars. Bred to survive the harshest environments, the Krogan were able to strike at the queens in their lairs and reclaim conquered council worlds. But when Krogan fleets pressed them back to their homeworld, the Rachni refused to surrender, and the Krogan eradicated them from the galaxy.
But we've heard a lot about the Rachni Wars. Like, it's been referenced a lot, both in other entries, but just in general conversation. Particularly with hand-in-hand mentioning with the Krogan, since obviously they were instrumental in ending the threat there. It reminds me quite a bit of, what was it, Ender's Game, right? They were fighting distant alien bug race. Yeah. I wonder if they'll ever make a game of, the time during the Rachni War. That would be interesting to learn more about. Okay.
In the early 2160s, the Alliance began aggressive colonization of worlds in the Skyllian Verge, much to the dismay of the Batarians, who had been developing the region for several decades. In 2171, the Batarians petitioned the Council to declare the Verge a zone of Batarian interest. The Council refused, however, declaring unsettled worlds in the region open to human colonization. In protest, the Batarians closed their Citadel embassy and severed official diplomatic relations with the Council, effectively becoming a rogue state. They instigated a proxy war in the Verge by funneling money and weapons to criminal organizations, urging them to strike at human colonies. Hostilities peaked with the Skyllian Blitz of 2176, an attack on the human capital of Elysium by Batarian-funded pirates and slavers. In 2178, the Alliance retaliated with a crushing assault on the moon of Torfin, long used as a staging base by Batarian-backed criminals. In the aftermath, the Batarians retreated into their own systems and are now rarely seen in Citadel space. In the early 2160s, the Elcor are a Citadel species native to the high-gravity world Dakuna. They are massive creatures, standing on 4 muscular legs for increased stability. Elcor move slowly, an evolved response to an environment where a fall can be lethal. This has colored their psychology, making them deliberate and conservative. Elcor's speech is ponderous and monotone. Among themselves, scent, slight movements, and subvocalized infrasound convey shades of meaning that make a human smile seem as subtle as a fireworks display. Since their subtlety can lead to misunderstandings with other species, the Elcor often go out of their way to clarify when they are being sarcastic, amused, or angry. Dacuna's high gravity impedes mountain formation. Most of the world consists of flat, open plains, which prehistoric Elcor wandered across in small family bands. Modern Elcor still prefer open sky, and can become restless and uncomfortable on long starship journeys.
I really enjoy that they give the clarification to their emotional state when they're speaking. I think it's really cool of them to make sure that people are understanding them correctly. It's very thoughtful.
The Geth are a humanoid race of networked AIs. They were created by the Quarians 300 years ago as tools of labor and war. When the Geth showed signs of self-evolution, the Quarians attempted to exterminate them. The Geth won the resulting war. This example has led to legal, systematic repression of artificial intelligences in galactic society. The Geth possess a unique distributed intelligence. An individual has rudimentary animal instincts, but as their numbers and proximity increase, the apparent intelligence of each individual improves. In groups, they can reason, analyze situations, and use tactics, as well as any organic race. Geth space is located at the trailing end of the Perseus Arm, beyond the lawless Terminus systems. The Perseus Veil, an obscuring dark nebula of opaque gas and dust, lies between their space and the Terminus systems. The Hanar are a Citadel species known for excessive politeness. They speak with scrupulous precision and take offense at improper language. Hanar that expect to deal with other species take special courses to help them unlearn their tendency to take offense at improper speech. All Hanar have two names. The face name is known to the world. The soul name is kept for use among close friends and relations. Hanar never refer to themselves in the first person in conversation with someone they know on a face name basis. To do so is considered egotistical, so instead they refer to themselves as this one, or the impersonal it. Their homeworld, Kajay, has 90% ocean cover and orbits an energetic white star, resulting in a permanent blanket of cloud. Due to the presence of Prothean ruins on the world, many Hanar worship them, and Hanar myths often speak of an elder race that civilized them by teaching them language. When the Asari discovered the Citadel, they also discovered the Keepers, a docile, multi-limbed insect race that seemingly exists only to maintain and repair the Great Prothean Station. Early attempts to communicate with or study the Keepers were failures, and it is now illegal to interfere with or impede Keeper activity. Because they are completely non-threatening, Keepers have become virtually invisible to everyone else. Similarly, they seem indifferent to other species, except for their tendency to help new arrivals integrate themselves into the Citadel. No matter how many Keepers die due to old age, violence, or accident, they maintain a constant number. No one has discovered the source of new Keepers, but some hypothesize they are genetic constructs, biological androids created somewhere deep in the inaccessible core of the Citadel itself. The Krogan evolved in a hostile and vicious environment. Until the invention of gunpowder weapons, eaten by predators was still the #1 cause of Krogan fatalities. Afterwards, it was death by gunshot. When the Solarians discovered them, the Krogan were a brutal, primitive species, struggling to survive a self-inflicted nuclear winter. The Solarians culturally uplifted them, teaching them to use and build modern technology, so they could serve as soldiers in the Rachni War. Liberated from the harsh conditions of their homeworld, the quick-breeding Krogan experienced an unprecedented population explosion. They began to colonize nearby worlds. Even though these worlds were already inhabited, the Krogan rebellions lasted nearly a century, only ending when the Turians unleashed the Genophage, a Solarian-developed bioweapon that crushed all Krogan resistance. The Genophage makes only 1 in 1,000 pregnancies viable, and today the Krogan are a slowly dying breed. Understandably, the Krogan harbor a grudge against all other species, especially the Turians. Driven from their home system by the Geth nearly 3 centuries ago, most Quarians now live aboard the Migrant Fleet, a flotilla of 50,000 vessels ranging in size from passenger shuttles to mobile space stations. Home to 17 million Quarians, the flotilla understandably has scarce resources. Because of this, each Quarian must go on a rite of passage known as the pilgrimage when they come of age. They leave the fleet and only return once they have found something of value they can bring back to their people. Other species tend to look down on the Quarians for creating the Geth and for the negative impact their fleet has when it enters a system. This has led to many myths and rumors about the Quarians, including the belief that underneath their clothes and breathing masks, they are actually cybernetic creatures, a combination of organic and synthetic parts. The Volus are a member species of the Citadel with their own embassy, but they are also a client race of the Turians. Centuries ago, they were voluntarily absorbed into the hierarchy, effectively trading their mercantile prowess for Turian military protection. Erun, their homeworld, lies far beyond the normal life zone of its star. However, the world has a high-pressure greenhouse atmosphere that traps enough heat to support an ammonia-based biochemistry. As a result, the Volus must wear pressure suits and breathers when dealing with other species, as conventional nitrogen-oxygen air mixtures are poisonous to them, and in the low-pressure atmospheres tolerable to most species, their flesh will actually split open. Volus culture is tribal, bartering lands and even people to gain status. This culture of exchange inclines them to economic pursuits. It was the Volus who authored the Unified Banking Act, and they continue to monitor and balance the Citadel economy. After the Geth secure a location, they round up and impale dead and living bodies on mechanical spikes. The spikes rapidly transform these victims into withered husks, extracting water and trace minerals, and replacing them with cybernetics. The cybernetics reanimate the lifeless flesh and tissue, transforming the bodies into mindless killing machines. Some Alliance soldiers refer to the husk-generating spikes as dragon's teeth, a reference to the mythological berserkers who sprang up from the earth wherever the teeth of the dragon Eris were planted. Dragon's teeth and husks bear little resemblance to other pieces of Geth technology. No one is sure why a synthetic race would bother to drain the minuscule amount of recoverable resources from organic corpses, though the value of reusing them as shock troops is obvious.
It's true. But it's usually when they've left the world, so what's the point of that? Like we haven't seen, Geth do this, and then, I don't know, return back and make sure that the husks have killed everybody or anything like that. It seems to be kind of nonsensical why they did that.
Thresher moths are subterranean carnivores that spend their entire lives eating or searching for something to eat. Threshers reproduce via spores that can lie dormant for millennia, yet are robust enough to survive prolonged periods in deep space and atmospheric re-entry. As a result, thresher spores appear on many worlds, spread by previous generations of space travelers. The body of a thresher never entirely leaves the ground. Only the head and tentacles erupt from the earth to attack. In addition to physical attacks, threshers have the ability to project toxic chemicals and emit bursts of infrasound as a shockwave weapon. The Alliance first encountered threshers on the colony of Akuz in 2177. After contact was lost with the Pioneer team, Marine units were deployed to investigate. The shore parties were set upon by hungry threshers, and nearly the entire assault force was killed. Alliance forces recommend engaging threshers with vehicle-mounted heavy weapons.
Jeez, I didn't realize. They tell you your colony was destroyed by threshers and you were the only one that got away, but I didn't realize they didn't. This was their first contact with them. Humans probably had never seen it, or maybe not even known about it. And just imagine these things bursting out all over town. You have no idea what they are. You got no way to fight them. It's kind of miraculous that even Shepard survived it.
The Citadel is an ancient deep space station, presumably constructed by the Protheans. Since the Prothean extinction, numerous species have come to call the Citadel home. It serves as the political, cultural, and financial capital of the galactic community. To represent their interests, most species maintain embassies on the Presidium, the Citadel's inner ring. The Citadel Tower in the center of the Presidium holds the Citadel Council chambers. Council affairs often have far-reaching effects on the rest of the galactic community. 5 arms, known as the wards, extend from the Presidium. Their inner surfaces have been built into cities, populated by millions of inhabitants from across the galaxy. The Citadel is virtually indestructible. If attacked, the station can close its arms to form a solid, impregnable shell. For as long as the station has existed, an enigmatic race called the Keepers has maintained it.
I'm going to pause this here and we'll come back to it.